In the context of sprinting, specifically the acceleration phase of your sprint, as this is going to be highly applicable to a lot of athletes and sports out there, pushing the ground back is essentially the internal cue that you want to be thinking about as much as you can. In acceleration, when you're essentially going from a zero standstill to working towards up to a top speed, you may never quite reach your top speed in a sport setting, especially the more developed you are as an athlete, but you can definitely start to maximize how high of a speed you can get up to. All that being said, pushing the ground back essentially means that in your technical sprint posture, we want to think about optimal joint angles. We want to think about your knees being up, your feet being dorsiflexed. And when we're striking the ground, we want to make sure that we're essentially hitting the ground directly under our hips. If we're striking the ground in front of our hips, let's say we're running on flat ground, we're now essentially wasting time and we're trying to pull our center of mass to that point that our foot is planted in the ground. If we're striking the ground behind our hips, we're now essentially missing those extra couple of inches to optimize the amount of force that we could have produced. We're now just kind of minimizing that distance we have to work with per stride. And so pushing the ground back, if we can ideally hit the ground directly under our hips, dorsiflex foot, good posture, we can now strike the ground, plant our foot in, and we're now essentially trying to think about pushing the ground backwards. And as a byproduct, we're now propelling ourselves forwards. We're projecting ourselves horizontally as we should in an acceleration phase. And so what I would recommend, and what I found really helped my acceleration phase of my sprint training, was doing heavy resisted sled pulls. I like the sled pulls because there's no object in front of you to rely on to push your weight on. I've had a lot of people in the past try and get me to do sled pushes. Now though, for myself and doing bobsled at the time, sled pushes was sport specific. But in terms of teaching myself how to run faster and apply force, I didn't necessarily feel that it was this sort of kinematic sensation that I was looking for or that I needed to in terms of how to actually accelerate my body through space. And I always found that pulling something was a little bit better because I had nothing in front of me to rely on as biofeedback, and pulling a heavy resisted object allowed me to sink more into those acceleration angles. And then obviously I would say that the newer you are to sprint training or the newer you are to a skill, putting more weight on the sled just allows you to spend more time in those angles. And it also allows you, because of the force that's required to overcome the resistance, allows you to actually push the sled, the ground, whatever's behind you. You're essentially trying to push it away from you as you're trying to propel yourself forward. I got some earlier videos, I think deep on my YouTube page, probably deep on my Instagram too, where you can see me doing these heavier resisted sled pulls. Obviously for the purpose of this video, I'm not going to overlay anything, but if you guys got any questions, make sure to send me a DM or leave a comment on a video. If you want more specific access to me, or you want actual training advice or training routines, training programs, make sure to join my online athletic performance community, where it's basically just going to be my hub for brain dumping as much knowledge as I can to turn you guys into the best athletes that you can.